Former Senate Majority Leader Bill Frist said that the law, while it has good things in it, is basically fatally flawed because it was passed with only Democratic votes, which it was. Believe me, I know more than most how hard everyone tried to get Republicans. I spent literally weeks camped outside those closed meetings that Senator Baucus was holding with Republican Senators Grassley, Hatch, Enzi, and Snow. Can you both address that?
How many on-the-record interviews did you do then?
Oh,
How many people did you quote by name?
Most
about
of them.
What the issues were that they were bargaining over?
Many of them.
Specific issues they were bargaining over?
To the extent they would tell us. That's why we were sitting outside the office. You clearly haven't read all of my reporting. They came out, they talked, they didn't say a whole lot, but yeah.
Some of them did, though.
Some of them, yes, some of them did. They frequently were talking about what they were talking about.
And if we laid out the 900 pages of the bill here and went through them, I could point out hundreds of ideas that they contributed to the bills. In fact, I used to tease the president that some of them, who will be unnamed, had a lot more in the bill than he did of their ideas, and they were good ideas, things that actually, Stephen, you and I agree on, like more transparency for hospital charges and those kinds of things. Senator Grassley pushed that.
Senator Grassley who
right.
pushed that in.
And I thought it was a good idea, and I went to the president, he said, that's a great idea, let's put it in there. So they had a lot of contributions to make. You know, we didn't write this bill, and one reason we didn't is because the president wanted it to be bipartisan. He wanted to have everyone at the table, and so when I got to the White House, I typed out a quote from President Johnson, which was, there is but one way for a president to deal with the Congress, and that is continuously, incessantly, and without interruption. And that's what we tried to do. And you know, it's one of my biggest regrets that in the end, a group of them couldn't come over and be part of it, because I think it would have made Secretary Sebelius' job much easier. It would have been easier to get the funding that we needed at various points.
Yeah, that's
it would have been much easier.
I mean, these guys really got a bum rap for that. They were, you basically were living with Olympia Snow at the time. I mean, when I interviewed Olivia Snow, she told me more about you than your close friends who told me about you, in terms of your biography and everything. You two
Maybe
bonded.
I don't have any close friends.
No, you have close. But that's really a bum rap. And in fact, it sort of goes back to inauguration night in 2009, when Frank Luntz, who's a Republican operative, I'm an upholsterer, also a pretty good friend of mine, has a dinner in Washington for a bunch of Republican congressmen and pollsters, and the topic of the dinner is, how do we block the new president? And topic A wasn't the stimulus stuff, because they knew they were going to have to pass a stimulus bill. Topic A was, we have to stop health care reform, because if the Democrats do this, it will end up like Social Security and Medicare. It'll be part of their legacy. We have to stop that. And one of the problems, and again, I don't think the American people really realize this, although certainly Senator Daschle emphasized this yesterday, you emphasized this, is what the Democrats basically decided to do with Obamacare was say yes to the Republicans. And the Republicans couldn't take yes for an answer. The law on the books is a slightly more conservative version of something Richard Nixon proposed in the 1970s to block a Teddy Kennedy proposal. And it's a much more conservative in terms of the subsidies and a bunch of other things, a lot of other provisions. It's much more conservative than what Mitt Romney did in Massachusetts. So the Democrats said, okay, we'll do this. And at that dinner, in anticipation that they were hearing none of it, and they literally discussed, well, we'll have a bunch of Republicans sort of play along for a while. They talked about this. And then they'll gradually drop off, and then at the end, the final ones will drop off and they say, this is just too unreasonable. The president and his staff are just being too unreasonable. It's their way or the highway, and we just can't agree with it. And that's exactly what happened. The last one was Senator Grassley, who kept you guys going for months, but there was, actually, Olympia Snow hung on till the very end too, but they walked away. And not because the Democrats weren't trying. Again, this was a Republican bill. Just think about it. the reason it passed was every single industry in healthcare benefited from this bill. The pharmaceutical companies, God knows they benefited. The insurance companies, the hospitals, the nonprofit hospitals benefited, the for-profit hospitals benefited, the medical device makers. Everybody got all these new customers who were going to be paid for by the government through their subsidies for healthcare. But the Republicans just couldn't take yes for an answer.